Washington DC, signing off.
北京时间7点整。
Radio Romania International. You are listening to our one-hour podcast in English for listeners in Western Europe and Japan. We can also be heard on the internet at www.rri.ro Channel 1. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter and other social media platforms. Our programs are also available on TuneIn and via satellite Eurosat 16A on 11.12 megahertz. Vertical polarization, azimuth 16 degrees east. Symbol rate 29,950 mega symbols per second. Standard DVB-S2. Modulation APSK. Audio PID 510. We wish you good reception conditions.
Welcome, this is Mihaela Ignatescu with the news, the main stories. The National Committee for Emergency Situations has established a 5-day quarantine for people arriving in Romania who do not present the COVID-19 certificate attesting to vaccination, without having had the disease in the last 180 days or a negative PCR test. Capping energy prices and the dismantling of the special section to investigate magistrates are among the priorities of the Romanian Parliament. And the Romanian government has established the conditions for a new population and housing census. In Romania, children are driving the transmission of the novel coronavirus, with new cases rising exponentially from one day to the next. In the last 7 days, infections among children rose by almost a half compared with the previous week. The situation is also reflected in the number of new hospital admissions, with almost 800 minors now in hospital. A total of over 20,000 new cases and 41 deaths were reported on Monday. Health Minister Alexandru Rafila warns of a further rise in cases, with daily infections to pass 40,000. He expects the already dominant Omicron variant to fully replace Delta in Romania in about 2 weeks, with a drop in hospital admissions being expected as a result. People coming from abroad to Romania will be subject to the same quarantine rules, no matter the country they come from. The National Committee for Emergency Situations has decided to establish a 5-day quarantine for people arriving in Romania who do not present the COVID-19 certificate attesting to vaccination, proof of having had the disease in the last 180 days, or a negative RT-PCR test performed within 72 hours prior to entering the country. At the same time, caller terminology on the differentiation of states according to epidemiological risk in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic has been eliminated. On the other hand, the head of the Department for Emergency Situations, Raed Arafat, stated on Monday that Romania must adapt to the rules of the European Union regarding the COVID-19 digital certificate. According to him, people who got the second dose of the vaccine more than 9 months ago should also get the booster. Raed Arafat added that for the time being, until a new legislative regulation comes into force, the digital certificate remains valid in Romania also for those who have exceeded this period. Romania's two-chamber parliament has started their current session with an emergency discussion on the reduction in energy bills. Senators and deputies are expected to pass an emergency order issued recently by the government on a new compensation and capping scheme. Another priority for Parliament is the dismantling of the Special Department to investigate magistrates. Another bill, which was already rejected by the Senate but is still under debate in the Chamber of Deputies, is about making the use of the COVID Green Certificate mandatory in the workplace. The Romanian government on Monday established the conditions for a new population and housing census postponed last year because of the pandemic. The government has passed 3 bills regulating the organization of the census, including from a financial point of view. The new census is to take place in February and March. As a first, citizens will be able to take part directly in the process by mid-May through self-census. Employees using this procedure will be granted 1 day of paid leave. Police and prisons trade unions are planning a large-scale protest on Wednesday with 5,000 participants outside the government and parliament headquarters. They are demanding a rise in pay. The media say the situation may become tense after trade union leaders said the Senate Speaker and the Liberal leader Florin Câțu promised them that the government will discuss their demands in its regular Tuesday meeting and adopt a decision in that respect. If Russia renounces diplomacy and attacks Ukraine, it will bear all responsibility and suffer rapid and severe consequences, U.S. President Joe Biden said in a statement to the UN Security Council on Monday, convened at the request of the United States to discuss the Ukrainian crisis. The U.S. ambassador to the UN said that Russia's actions threaten international security. Ukraine has called on Russia to withdraw its massed troops along the common border and continue dialogue with the West if it really wants to ease the tension. For its part, the head of diplomacy in Moscow, Sergei Lavrov, said that Russia wants good and mutual respectful relations with the United States and any other country, but that it does not want to remain in a situation where security is violated on a regular basis. In our sports, Romanian number 1 Simona Halep drops to number 23 in the tennis world ranking. Sorana Cârstea had a great run at the Australian Open, went up to number 32. Irina Begu climbs 8 places to 56, while Jacqueline Christian and Gabriela Rose climb 11 places to 58 and 61 respectively. And that was the news.
The number of children and teenagers diagnosed with COVID-19 in Romania is growing. I'm Ana Maria Popescu with more on this in a report written by Mihai Felin. Romania saw record high numbers of COVID-19 infections last week, with over 34,000 cases on Wednesday and more than 168,000 for the entire week. The number of related deaths remains lower than during the autumn wave. However, there are concerns related to the transmission of the virus among children. The classes are held on-site across the country until 75% of the hospital beds set aside for COVID patients are occupied in any given county. On Sunday, 3,800 children tested positive for the coronavirus, and the total number for last week reached nearly 36,000. Kids have become a COVID transmission vector, and the number of cases rises exponentially from one day to the next, says the president of the Family Doctors Association in Ialomița, Andreea Radu. Children are known to spread the virus very easily because they learn and play in large groups. Although the Omicron variant seems to cause milder forms of the disease, especially compared to the Delta, you never know in what category you fall, whether you will indeed have a mild form or not. Some hospitals in the country open pediatric COVID units to handle the severe cases among children. The manager of the Slobozia County Emergency Hospital, Liviu Patrichi, warns that the number of such cases is growing.
Problema pe care o avem diferită de celelalte valuri pandemice este numărul crescut de cazuri pediatrice.
The problem we are facing now compared to the other wave of the pandemic is the large number of mild and medium cases among children. We have opened a COVID pediatric unit, which is running at the capacity specified in the resilience plan. We have 9 dedicated beds for pediatric cases. The Health Minister, Alexandru Rafila, said his professional advice for parents who want to have their children vaccinated against COVID is to get properly informed in advance. She added that immunization of kids aged 5 to 11 runs smoothly, and the good organization gives confidence to parents. The upward trend in the number of COVID-19 cases will last for another few days, Alexandru Rafila also said. In hospitals, the number of COVID patients is on the rise, and the complications and severe cases that reach ICUs are mainly caused by the Delta variant, which still accounts for around 20% of the new infections. Mr. Attila estimates that in about 2 weeks' time, the already prevailing Omicron variant will have completely replaced Delta in Romania as well. which will slow down the inflow of patients in hospitals. According to him, this will be the last wave likely to have a serious impact on public health. And starting this spring, we might resume public and private events with large numbers of participants, which have been subject to the most severe restrictions over the past 2 years.
The Romanian senators and deputies were convened for the first ordinary session of 2022 on Tuesday, February 1st. I'm Fevera Sinin with details in this commentary by Roxana Vasile. According to the Romanian Constitution, the Chamber of Deputies and the Senate meet in 2 ordinary sessions a year. The first begins in February and cannot go beyond the end of June. The second session begins in September and cannot go beyond the end of December. If urgent situations occur, the 2 chambers of Romania's parliament can be convened in extraordinary sessions at the request of the President of Romania, of the Permanent Bureau of each chamber, or of at least 1/3 of the number of deputies and senators. This week, the MPs return to work at the Parliament Palace after the winter holidays. They will focus on the draft laws in such areas as justice, health, and the economy. Their priority of the moment is to offset electricity and natural gas bills. Therefore, the MPs will approve a new emergency ordinance recently issued by the government on a new capping and compensation scheme, given that in the last few winter months, the bills received by some citizens have been extremely high. The Senate will debate the document as the first chamber notified, and then it will be submitted to the Chamber of Deputies as a decision-making body. Also in the field of energy, the agenda of Parliament could include in this session the modification of the offshore law, which would unblock the hydrocarbons extraction projects in the Black Sea. In the field of justice, the Parliament's agenda will include the dismantling of the section for the investigation of offences committed within the judiciary. Criticized by some, applauded by others, the dismantling of this section was also requested by Brussels officials. The current Justice Minister, Cătălin Prădoiu, believes that by the end of March, the section will no longer exist. The challenge for the Social Democratic Party and the National Liberal Party, partners in the ruling coalition, is also the drafting of a new salary law, which should equally solve the issue of benefits so as to avoid cases in which the benefits are equal to the basic income. Finally, the parliamentarians are to also decide on the fate of the COVID certificate. More precisely, a bill that has remained in the debate of the Chamber of Deputies since the past session establishes the obligation to present this certificate at the workplace. If initially the bill provided for this obligation only in the case of the medical staff, following changes proposed by senators, the certificate could apply to all categories of employees with certain exceptions. After many discussions in the Senate, the document was rejected, and the deputies are expected to give no vote. Whether in power or in opposition, all political parties represented in the Romanian Parliament have their own projects, which they want to include on the agenda to be debated and voted on. Among them, amending the law on protected areas, increasing salaries in the education system, and allowances for children, modifying the law on doctoral theses, or the ban on wood export. And that was Radio Newsreel.